It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. We are live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State, also live on Facebook and on YouTube. It's having the crucial conversations that Erie needs, and today we're welcoming in Gary Lee. He's the Chief Administrative Officer for the Erie County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, also known as Diverse Erie. And we're going to be talking about a recent economic impact study. But first, let's say hello. Hi, Gary. How are you, sir?
Hi, Joe. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Welcome back. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
All righty. So before we get to the study, there has been some recent news, right, of a settlement of a $1.5 million issue from the county to Diverse Erie. Can you talk about that? You guys had to sue to get that, right?
Oh, we did, unfortunately. The county council, back on January 24th of 2024, they actually,
Okay.
over a year ago.
Over a year ago, yeah.
They had actually approved $1.5 million to the commission, and there was a technicality that the county executive brought up with county council in reference to having the funds certified. And having the funds certified is what is considered a ministerial task, meaning that it is not major. Although it is standard practice, it has no impact on whether the funds should have been released or not. So it just simply says that, yes, we have the money there. We knew that the money was there based on the feedback we received from council. So therefore, it should have been released at that time. It was not released at that time. We had several conversations with county council to see if they could work with the county executive regarding the release of money. That came back. Unfortunately, they could not. It came back negative. So consequently, it left us in the position that we're going to have to go to court to have that money released. And that's what we did. And the judge actually ended up having an agreement with the county and us, and he signed off on the order, which was extremely favorable for Diverse Erie.
Alrighty, so that's $1.5 million. And do you anticipate that Diverse Erie will end up becoming a line item on the regular general budget? And again, you were part of an administration. You prepared these budgets here. Do you anticipate Diverse Erie will be a part of that?
Joe, that's a very good question. A lot of that is going to be based on how healthy financially the county is doing.
Yeah.
I know that in the last couple of years, in fact, year before last, we had our highest tax increase in modern history, which is not good. So, whether the county council is able to identify the funds is hard to say. One thing that I'm encouraged by is that the 1.5 that we do have, which is coming from the American Rescue Plan dollars.
So that is ARP money.
Yes, it is. We're going to make sure to reutilize that money effectively into the best of our ability to make sure that we invest with small businesses and other initiatives that Diverse Erie has.
Okay. Let's pivot here. I appreciate that. So we're talking about this economic impact study, and it's talking about what has been able to be done with the first 3 years of opportunity investments into Erie's BIPOC community here. So talk about what you found.
So what we found, the $3.5 million that Diverse Erie received in December of 2021, we invested that money into the BIPOC community in the way of generational impact investments, in the way of small business investments. And then we had a small business fund set up with the Erie County Redevelopment Authority. And this is what we found out. We found out for every dollar that we invested, the $3.5 million, there was a return of $1.63, which is a 63% increase as far as the return, which is phenomenal. We also found out that we were able to sustain and support 32 jobs in Erie County, and we're very proud of that. And then you hear about taxes. In the way of taxes, we were able to contribute over $193,000 into the tax base locally. So those are just some of the key highlights that we were able to accomplish with this $3.5 million.
All righty. What were some of the investments? What? Tell us some stories, I guess.
Absolutely. So let's start with the generational impact grant.
Yeah.
which these were transformative investments that we wanted to make in Erie County.
And how big were they? Were they sizable? Or
They were. They ranged from $100,000 up to $250,000. Let's just take, for example, the Eastside Renaissance project. We invested $250,000 with that into that particular initiative, and right now, with the opening of Erie Bank, with the opening of several small businesses on that corridor, we have been able to see our return greatly. I was just talking with a representative from Erie Eastside Renaissance, and they had shared with me to date, it's over like $2 million, well over that. I think he said $10 million is what they've been able to acquire. But our investment of $250,000, we can trace that to about $1.52 million.
Wow. Well, that's significant. What were some of the other things? Again, Eastside Renaissance.
Sure.
I mean, there was a that may not be a generational grant, but there was a lady in the paper that talked about her hairstyling business, right?
Yes. So in the way of small businesses, we were able to do, and I like to call them investments as opposed to grants.
Sure.
And the reason I say that is that when we invest, we're expecting a return. We're expecting value to be done through the taxpayer dollars that we're investing. So to your point, the salon was $20,000 we invested in her particular salon.
Can you name it?
Yeah. It's of course it goes through my mind right now.
Right.
I believe it's Nature Beauty Salon.
Okay, sure.
But we were able to invest $20,000, which really assisted her with some renovations, buying products, making sure that her doors were going to remain open. Now, someone would say, well, what's $20,000? Well, $20,000 investment to a small business is significant.
There's no doubt about it.
Right. It's significant. Now, in one of the things that in the article that she had talked about is really having several employees. At one time, I think she had up to 11 employees, full-time and part-time. But once the pandemic hit, it had to get downsized to about half of that. So she wants to be able to have the ability to work back up to capacity, which is very, very important. Barb's Corner, which is a daycare, Barb's Daycare, we invested $15,000 with their particular business, which is very, very important because we know that child daycare daycare support. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. Daycare support is very, very important in our region. They've kind of highlighted what they're going to be doing to make the improvements in that particular area. But her money was used for renovations, helping her get the doors open. Now, again, that $15,000 is a small investment compared to the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they're investing in their own initiatives.
Right. Well, it's additive, or it may cover like a project that you don't have to try to cash flow or get a loan for.
Right.
I mean, some people are just like, hey, I just need signage or marketing, or I need a copier or a phone system. I mean, it's always like, it's not always exciting. Let's just say that. Sometimes it's really mundane business stuff.
And that's a very good point, Joe. And you're absolutely right. Now, another aspect to this is that many of them have leveraged, of course, their own personal funds, which they should because it's their own business. But they were able to go with some of the traditional financing, whether it's with a bank or whether it's with some type of federal or state agency that assists with small businesses.
Tell me about the BIPOC part of this, because again, we're in the days of kind of that defining terms can be difficult at times. So how does the commission define?
So and that's a great question. We stick with the ethnicities, Black, African American, Latino, Asian, American Indians. We look at the census from the U.S. Department. So we stick with those particular identities to do the breakdown.
So okay, so so people are self-identifying, right?
Correct. Yes.
And I want to get into the nitty-gritty of the grant writing, but let's talk about the let's talk about this report that you came out with, because you're talking about overall that Diverse Erie is making a $5.7 million impact in Pennsylvania's economy. Kind of talk about that. Where did that number come from, I guess?
So where that number comes from, we talk about direct, indirect, and induced investments. So let's start with the direct. The direct, of course, is that $3.5 million that we, through operations, through investing in investments, that we have actually put into the small businesses and in some cases nonprofit organizations. Then you talk about the indirect. Indirect, and I think this is really important to highlight, we're talking in reference to any type of businesses here in Erie County, whether it's for legal services, whether it's for supplies, whether it's for janitorial equipment. We're talking about other businesses which will help the small business infrastructure in Erie County. And then when you talk about induce, we're talking about families and employees that are able to pay their mortgages, pay rent, buy groceries, do all the things that will help a healthy economy grow. So when we talk about the $5.7 million, that is sufficient when we look at it from a totality perspective. And one of the things that I always place emphasis on is the ripple effect. So when we're investing with businesses of color, they're going to be investing with other businesses in Erie County, and the other businesses in Erie County will cause Erie County, of course, to grow, but not only Erie County, but the state to grow. Sure. And then as the state grows, the country grows.
There's no doubt about it. And again, vendors are you have your vendors, you have your customers. I mean, it's a whole economic system. Gary Lee is our guest here. Let's take our first break. If you have a question, you can send a text to 814-679-1080. Back in just a bit. You tune to Talk Erie at 105.9 WZTE. Gary Lee from Diverse Erie is with us. He's the Chief Administrative Officer. And Gary, I want to talk about some of the, kind of the systemic issues that are our BIPOC community has dealt with here in Erie. And, number one has been this concept of home ownership. And it really starts, in my opinion, with financial literacy. I think we all had to learn. Like, I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know, like, what kind of home ec and financial literacy stuff is being taught in the schools. Now, I keep on hearing about, like, that there's a new state mandate that they need to teach financial literacy. It's getting under the code. But what are you discovering about things like home ownership and fixing your credit and all the things that are necessary that surround that topic? Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So what I am seeing is that financial literacy is the foundation to completely understanding when and if you should purchase a home. Let's be honest, home ownership is not for everyone. And that goes across all demographics. It goes across all economic, socioeconomic backgrounds. It's not for everyone. And then it's a timing issue. It may be better to purchase a home late 20s, early 30s than it would be at someone who's like 22 or someone who's 59. So there's all these elements that go into when you're talking about home ownership and purchasing. And we know that when you purchase a home, you have to have, when we talk about having that safety net and emergency fund, you have to have that in place prior to purchasing that home. Because when something does happen, and it will happen, whether it's a hot water tank, maybe it's new windows, new roof, whatever the case may be, you're going to have to dip into that emergency fund to do such. Or something else could come up. Your automobile may give out on you, and you don't want to have to take the money from your mortgage to fix your automobile. So financial literacy is the foundation, and really make sure that you're ready and up to this home ownership task.
But, I think the goal here is probably, especially for Diverse Erie, is to unlock the agency of that you don't have to be a renter forever, if you are gainfully employed, and to kind of, make it more, more known that, hey, owning a home could be the best solution for you, right? I mean,
you're absolutely right. We know that when you talk about generational wealth, one of the best ways to create generational wealth is through home ownership. It's not the only way, by the way,
right.
But it's one of the best ways to do such. So again, going back to the timing issue, making sure that you have enough money for a down payment, making sure that you have enough money for emergency situations, making sure that the timing is right on that when you go to purchase a home. When we talk about home ownership in Erie County, a few years ago, back in 2022, we had a study done, and at that time, 3% was the rate for home ownership in Erie County for the African American community. Nationally, it's about 46, 48%, depending on what report you're looking at. And then statewide, it's about close to nationally, it's about 45, 44%.
So Erie is that far behind than the state and national?
Yes.
All right. So what is the value add that Diverse Erie is hoping to do in this space?
We're in this space of home ownership. We're hoping to be able to improve, first of all, the numbers, but also to educate and to share with persons of color about home ownership. We don't want to take anything for granted. We don't want to make any assumptions that you know when to purchase, how to purchase a home. The other key to this is relationships. We want to make sure that our individuals that we're serving have started to develop a good relationship with the banking community. Mm-hmm. That is so important. Why is that so important? Because once you have a relationship, you can have a better conversation. They can work with you. Many banks have plenty of workshops and sessions about credit repair, financial literacy as far as how to invest your money, when to invest, when to take out certain amounts of dollars, your home equity loan, how that may contribute down the road. So there's a lot of different aspects to this home ownership that really can be improved from just developing a relationship with your banker.
That makes a lot of sense. Talk about because there's a lot of folks that are kind of addressing this. I'm thinking of Erie's Black Wall Street for one. Do you anticipate working with other community partners to kind of push the needle?
We do, and we have. So we are not a a organization that runs actual programs and
You're a
and so
funder.
forth. Yeah, we are a grant funder. So
Yeah.
we're in the space of investing with entities that are doing that type of work in the community. You mentioned Erie Black Wall Street. We invested through our generational impact grant $100,000 with them, so that they have the ability to continue on with financial literacy, the initiative that they're doing in the home ownership space, all the good things that we're trying to bring to Erie County and improve on. We're investing with organizations that will do such.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And you know, do you get an understanding? Like I'm wondering about the feedback loop. Like what what is the felt need from the folks in the neighborhoods of is it just that it seems like an unattainable situation, or or that just they don't know anybody who owns a home? Could it be that we need more African American and people of color in the real estate business and in the banking business? I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
All those are true. I
Okay.
think that, yeah, from a real estate standpoint, and again, you don't have to look like someone in order to buy a house from someone.
Right,
We know that,
yeah,
right?
right, yeah.
Same thing with banking. But what we know through research is that individuals feel a little more comfortable when they see someone who looks like them. They can identify a little quicker. They may be able to address and link up with some lived experiences. So that is always positive. I would say that it's very, very important that individuals that would like to consider purchasing a home to talk to homeowners, to talk to individuals and say, hey, how do you feel? What is your life like? Or what are the pros? What are the cons of owning a home? When did you start to own your home? How did you even begin to own your own home? And many times you'll find that it's not required, but many of them start in areas where that you can get the best house, maybe in a area that is changing. And when I say changing for the best and really improving. So you go and you purchase the best home in that particular vicinity. You invest money to fix it up. By the time you're done, you may have the best house in that vicinity, and then other homeowners are fixing their houses up, and then the property value increases so that in 10, 20 years, maybe it's 50% worth more than what you purchased it for.
There's no doubt about it, especially where our market sits here. This is exciting. And do you anticipate, like, is your board kind of trying to say, hey, let's make $500,000 investment, or what? Or I don't even know. Are you looking at like actually dividing up a current budget toward these specific pillars that you're advocating?
We already have that budget.
You already have that budgeted out.
Have that budget set up. As we speak today, it's between $250,000 to $300,000.
Okay.
We look to work with banking institutions that they're already doing it in this space. When you talk about home ownership and first-time home ownership, we're looking to continue to work with banks that are in that space and leverage the money so that we can have a more impactful initiative when we talk about home ownership.
We're talking to Gary Lee. We got to take our bottom of the hour news break here. When we get back, we're going to talk about some of the other big pillars that Diverse Erie is working on here. You are tuned to Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. Stay with us. News is next. The organization is called Diverse Erie. Gary Lee is the chief administrative officer here. They're a grant writer and funder for people of color in kind of jump-starting major initiatives here. And Gary, I want to go to another pillar that seems to be what you're hanging your hat on with Diverse Erie, and that is healthcare. And I just had the gentleman from the Minority Community Investment Coalition on, and we were talking about healthcare and access, especially for people of color. There are cultural, skepticism that might be the best way for it, right? Then there's access issues, right? There's literally people be able to get an appointment, or having the proper insurance or whatever. How can Diverse Erie be a value add for healthcare?
So one of the initiatives that we are exploring is, and we've allocated approximately $400,000 to this particular initiative. In fact, it's the largest amount when we talk about dollar amount of the 4 initiatives. We're looking to work with the hospitals and medical organizations here in Erie County to leverage that $400,000 where we can improve access, where we can improve the quality of healthcare for persons of color and for new Americans. One of the things that new Americans run into is the language barrier.
Yeah.
So it's really important that whatever entity we work with, they have the ability to provide the language that's required so that the translation's not off, especially when you're talking about your health.
Wow. And so is this a focus on primary care mostly? I mean, I guess I'm wondering how tough is the situation? Are people getting their yearly checkups and their blood screenings for the most part in the community?
So I haven't reviewed any data
Yeah.
to tell me one way or another.
Yeah.
But I really think it's important that we always try to provide that avenue and improve on that avenue that can have you go to your doctor for the proper screening and have that communication be two-way, and then the quality of care, which is really important. So we're still working through this even as we speak. The Grants Review Committee will be looking at developing guidelines, and we envision it probably will go out as a request for proposal. So NT Healthcare organization in Erie County that's looking to reach out to that in that particular space will have the opportunity to do such through submitting a proposal.
Do you get a sense that again, we have the same, in these big sectors that, again, you have that government perspective, you have this perspective as a leader here with this commission. It always is helpful if you can find some people that look like you. And so I'm thinking about, do we need to think about education piece for people to be thinking about doctors and nursing and things like that, of people of color? I mean, how many African American people were part of the some of the startup nursing programs, let's say, that the community college is doing, or NPRC, or even Jameson, with UPMC and so on. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And that kind of goes into the third initiative, which we're talking about education, whether it's with apprenticeships or pre-apprenticeship programs or just general education at large. We need to attract and do a little better in this space. Erie County is home for me, even though I spent nearly half of my professional life away. I love Erie County, and I love the people ask me all the time, what do you really love about Erie County? And it's the people. And we care about each other, and we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity for he or she to live their best lives. And I think that's what Diverse Erie is attempting to do. So coming back to your question about education, I think if we can encourage communities of color to consider to go into these maybe areas that they may not traditionally have gone into at record levels.
Right.
I think it's going to be helpful for everyone, because at the end of the day, when you are able to provide self-sustaining jobs and solid jobs for communities. In this particular case, the BIPOC community, it's only going to grow the entire economy.
Yeah. Again, let me blue sky with you a second. Sure. Is that something that John Maxwell would tell us, to be blue sky and have big dreams, right?
Yes.
So right now we have, which shocks me. Again, you know this. We never had a teacher shortage in Erie County because we were a net exporter of teachers, right? We had Edinboro State, which is now Penn West Edinboro. We used to crank out 1,000 teachers out of there. Now those numbers have dropped off a cliff for the census, let alone seeing people of color become teachers. That was, I think last time I checked, and as long as we've been doing this show, it's been about 4% of the population in our teaching colleges are African American or people of color. How do you turn that around and get people to say, hey, I want to take care of the future generation? And again, and of course, we've got some other major issues like our birth rates are lower and so on. But I mean, again, I'm just wondering if that's part of the blue skying that maybe the board at Diverse Erie is thinking about.
Absolutely. So teaching, and I come from a family of educators, is very, very important. I think one of the things is starting with more respect for the teachers. And I'm talking about coming from the parents and then working it down to the children, because from my perspective, the parents have to set the tone. And, you really want to be respectful to the teachers and the principals so that your child can see this is how you conduct business. So let's start there. 2 would be compensation, making sure that teachers are compensated for all the work that they do at the right competitive levels. Many times, unfortunately, the salaries are not where they need to be. So therefore, you have individuals, and again, this is for everyone, all kind of demographics, looking at other professions, because it's like, well, how do I take care of my family if I really are unable to receive the type of compensation that I know I'm worthy of? So I think it starts with the parents, making sure that they're very respectful of the educational community. And then secondly, us as leaders looking at how do we make it more competitive for the teachers to receive the proper compensation. And then third, we have to bring back sexy to being smart. We have to bring back sexy to being smart, because we have dumbed down trying to be cool and trying to hang with certain, and I'm talking about adults now, I'm not even talking about kids, trying to hang with certain cliques that we don't really want to show how we truly are and why we think the way we think. And then that kind of trickles down to the students. But let's talk about the students. We have to encourage the students that it's all right to be able to read more, shall I say. It's fine to be a math wizard and science wizard. Right. Really encourage them to be the best that he or she can be.
Yeah, honestly, even media kind of contributes to that. Like, the Urkel, right? The smart. Yeah, come on.
Right.
It's not cool. I mean, and again, that's a 20-year-old reference, but still, the idea that that you could have an amazing career and educate the next generation and represent your community all in one, swoop. One of the conversations we're going to have soon here is talking about childcare, and I've been doing a lot of research about this, and I'm shocked at some of the entry level pay wages to be in the childcare field. Some of it's like $8 to $10. I don't know how you would attract anyone and retain them, but that seems to be the reality of that particular field, and we need people from every community, every neighborhood to jump into this childcare crisis, don't we? I mean,
we really do. In Diverse Erie, when we talk about our small initiatives and investments from that perspective, over the last 3 years, we have invested with 8 daycares to the tune of over $140,000. Now, that may sound like a small amount, but when you're talking about small businesses, all dollars count. Every single dollar counts. So we're very proud of that, and we look for those numbers to continue to grow.
That makes a lot of sense. All right. Let's go to, one last word on apprenticeships. Are you thinking more on in terms of the trades, construction and manufacturing trades? Is that really kind of where you want to home in on?
That's where we want to hone in on, but we won't stop there. You brought up a little earlier about nursing and perhaps being a dental hygienist. That's very important. So we just don't want to limit it to the apprenticeship, although that's going to be a big push. We look to partner with entities that are already in that space, doing an excellent job, and how can Diverse Erie invest and leverage the money that we have for that particular initiative. So we won't be starting from scratch. We will be identifying and working with entities that, again, that are in that space. More than likely, as I talk with the board, they're looking perhaps to go with the request for proposal, and you're going to get the biggest bang, if you will, for your dollars to make sure that the investment is not only being leveraged, but it's really being strategically invested in the various communities and demographics.
Gary Lee from Diverse Erie is our guest. Let's talk about small business development here. I'll throw a curveball at you here. Not everybody should be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. You're exactly right.
I mean, because one of the narratives I'm hearing, and this is kind of more universal, young generation, is they've got an idea, they've got it on a napkin, and they want to get funded, and not everybody understands, or most people don't understand, what it takes to build a business from scratch. But if you do have an amazing idea and you're really willing to go after it, being an entrepreneur is absolutely amazing. So, navigating that balance is going to be kind of key for leaders like you, I would imagine.
So you're exactly right. My background is with small business development.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity of working with Governor Ridge, where I oversaw business development down in Harrisburg many years. I've had the opportunity of being a consultant myself with small businesses. And I would say this, you're absolutely right. And everyone's not an entrepreneur, which is fine. And everyone doesn't want to be an entrepreneur or be a small business owner. However, in saying that, I will say this: the way you build your economy is through small businesses.
100%.
That is the way you build your economy. And one of the things that we're doing with Diverse Erie, and I have to be very clear here, this, as I see it, is a booster shot where you're investing some extra dollars into a community, our communities that really need the extra shot. Now, stay with me here for a moment.
Yeah.
It is not a handout. It is not a giveaway, because these small businesses have, I can assure you, have put in some 10, 20 to $1 to invest and get their dream going. It was just at a particular time, especially after the pandemic, which affected everyone. And all small businesses were really hurting, some more than others. And based on the data that we saw, it was businesses of color that really, really hit a rock bottom. So this will be a way to jumpstart, put on the training wheels back on to get them going, and then take the training wheels off. I don't envision this as forever. It is just for a period of time to get the small businesses to the level perhaps where they were prior to the pandemic, and then they can take it from there.
Do you anticipate maybe establishing a loan program kind of similar to what like Chris Groner does on the city, or is that already happening, I guess?
It's already happened. I'm glad you brought that up. Perfect lead in.
There you go.
So I've had $3.5 million.
Yeah.
When I say we, Diverse Erie, took and invested $500,000 with the Erie County Redevelopment Authority.
Okay.
And they are running a small business fund set up specifically by Diverse Erie. You hear some people saying, "Oh, they haven't leveraged anything." We leveraged $500,000 to bring in another $1.5 million. That leveraging was through the Erie County Redevelopment Authority, Erie County Gaming Revenue Authority, the Erie Community Foundation, and the Pennsylvania Minority Business Development Authority. So another $1.5, a $2 million fund we have. As we speak today, $1.7 million is on the street as far as through loans. And these loans will come with their loan. You have to repay it.
Yeah.
But those loans have been able to leverage, when you talk about various projects, have been able to leverage another, I just saw the report, about $3.6 million. Okay. So when you add those up together, you're over $5.4 million for total project costs.
Wow.
Now we talk about jobs and we talk about retaining jobs. And why don't we start with retaining jobs? We're always talking about creating, but it's very important that we have the mindset and the attitude about retaining. We've through this
that, to the listener, it's business retention and attraction.
Yes.
Right? And expansion, excuse me, BRE.
Yes.
So that's not the attraction side, that's the BRE side.
That's exactly right. So, through this particular loan initiative, we've been able to retain, based on reports, 123 jobs.
Nice.
Which is great. And then we've been able to create, through this particular loan initiative, 65 jobs. And I don't take this lightly because these are family-sustaining jobs. I say that to say this. When you invest properly and you do it right, it not only helps the intended demographics and the intended business owners, but it helps the economy and the economy and the state to grow locally and nationally. And I think that's really important because when they want to leverage, they're working with banks, bringing money in. When they look to build these projects, they're hiring construction companies, plumbers, electricians. Many of these companies will not be BIPOC companies, which is fine because we're all in this together. So those dollars trickle down indirectly to these particular businesses, which will continue to help all small businesses grow in Erie County.
It's pretty remarkable. I want to give you credit for working with other established deals because, again, you've been around as long as I have.
Right.
We liked for a while to work in our silos, and I feel finally that we have we're tearing down our silos. We've got authorities working together, commissions working together, not reinventing the wheel.
Yes.
Within the county, but we're able to just add value and boost the efforts of stuff. And so I love that you worked with Tina and those guys at the ECRDA.
Absolutely. Joel, I just had the other week a national organization, a national newspaper actually, contact me to talk. They're looking to do a story, and I can't name the entity. You would know it, of course, if I named it. But they're looking to do a story on Erie County and how Erie County continues to be successful in the way of diversity and bringing, working together. I'm excited because we will be on the stage not only nationally, but internationally to highlight Erie. Erie is a great place. And what people are realizing is that we are doing a lot of things right. And if we're doing it right, then other places won't have excuses. They can do it right. Now, here's the other part to that. Let's not mess it up. Okay?
Right.
Let's not mess it up because
let's keep our eye on the prize here.
Exactly. Keep it on and keep the eye on the prize together. And that's what I'm going to be highlighting. Diversity is our best strength. We should not be working against each other. We have to work together with each other. And here's the other part to that. People are watching nationally, internationally. People are watching not only in Washington, not only in Harrisburg, but they're saying, hey, what are they up there doing in Erie? And again, we want to highlight our best and not a lot of friction and not a lot of chaos.
You're not concerned about the DEI label, are you?
Not at all.
Because it's kind of coming out of favor, at least in DC.
No, exactly.
Right?
So it's interesting that you bring, and thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
But when you talk about DEI, unfortunately, it's been weaponized and it's been taken out of context, and is a very polarizing letters, if you will. At the end of the day, I'm about making sure that we do have diversity. Diversity is how we built this country, and we don't want to get away from that, and we don't want to exclude people. It is going to be based, of course, it's always been based on merit. I don't care what anyone says. It's always been based on your talent and what you bring to the table. So I won't buy into that particular argument, but what I really want to do is make sure that everyone receives a fair chance. Everyone receives a fair chance to do his or her best in life. Period. So when you look at that, and I won't get caught up on the letters because, like I said, there's a lot going from both sides. You have half of the companies saying that we're going to stick with this initiative. You have other half of the companies, I won't name them all, who said, no, we're not going to stick with it. At the end of the day, I think the leaders owe it to, and if you're a leader of a corporation, you owe it to your employees to create the best environment, the best culture for everyone to be able to succeed and go to the next level.
We're going to leave it there. Gary Lee, the Chief Administrative Officer of Diverse Erie. Appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Joel.
All the best in 2025. It should be a big year for you guys.
It will be. Thank you so much.
You got it. It's 4:54. It's Talk Erie.